What if I told you you could promote yourself without feeling gross about it? There's a very simple shift you can make, and it's shifting from the past you to the future you. The past you talks about what you've done, who you know, your accomplishments. That feels kind of icky when you talk about it. The future you, however, can talk about the possibility, the potential, the hope for the future. That sounds something I'd want to play with. So join me as we talk about how to shift from icky to awesome, the past to the future, and teach people about the future you. Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome all of you who are still joining. We've got lots of people showing up today, which is super exciting, exhausting. Is that a Freudian slip? Maybe. I don't even know. It's Friday. Hurrah. I hope you will have fantastic plans scheduled for the weekend. Okay, let us jump into the beginning of this. I want to start out with a story. And a story is from one of my clients who brought me in to work with a bunch of people on their team around this really vague thing they were calling executive presence, self-promotion, all of the things. And I started asking questions because I was like, well, what do you mean by executive presence? What do you mean by self-promotion? What is it you're trying to accomplish? And this is what they said. They said, we've got some really brilliant people. And yet we don't seem to hear from them as much. And we think it's holding them back from opportunities and promotions. This company I'm working with wants their high potential employees to be recognized for their brilliance, and nobody is hearing about it. Because they're right. And if you have been to my shows, you've heard me talk about this before. Every decision made about you and your opportunities is made in a room that you're not in, which means that the people who are handing out jobs, promotions, opportunities, all the things, need to know that you exist first before they can choose you. And we tend to remember things we hear and see more frequently. So if you are not seen and people are not remembering you and you are not getting chosen, it's because they don't know about you. And if you're not self-promoting, they can't choose you. The other thing that kind of is a factor in here, which adds a whole layer of nuance and complication and all of that sort of thing, is while they might know you exist, how those people in the room that you're not in perceive your potential is actually the critical question. Because when somebody can perceive your potential, the future you, how are you going to be tomorrow, they are going to be able to manifest your ambitions. It is that simple. So I want you to reframe the slightly icky, slightly uncomfortable conversation of, oh, I need to promote myself so that people can choose you, and reframe self-promotion into this concept of potential perspective. Am I teaching people how to recognize and remember my potential? What I am going to do tomorrow, how I am going to add value tomorrow, because that is the thing that they're choosing. Because when they decide it's going to be Bob, Jane, Angela, Helen, fill in the blank name here, it's because they believe that that person has the potential to do whatever it is they need to do in the future. So one, yes, they need to know you exist. So are you seen? And two, What are they seeing are the really critical questions. Okay, that is everything we are going to be talking about in today's show. So if you are new here today and you just were like, wait, what about this whole every decision made about you and your opportunities is made in the room that you're in? Welcome to Truth Bomb number 1. There are going to be many more in this show. If you are a returning visitor, welcome back. It is lovely to see you. I know you hear me say this every week, but every week I am talking to people about how to, in essence, make sure the conversation in the room that you want is the one that you want. Because when that happens, well, that's when all the magic happens. Okay, so we're going to talk about this concept of the future you, potential perspectives, and why it's important in the self-promotion world. We're also going to have some live examples today. Big shout out to Kathleen and Lara, who have already given us some information about them. So we're going to call on them. For other folks, if you want to stick your hand up and you haven't been to the show, just know that I'm always picking on people in the audience because I think it's always better to show, not tell. I'm also going to be opening up an opportunity for you to experiment. If you know me at all, I'm all about concepts are awesome, doing is way better. So we're going to give you an opportunity to experiment. And then last but not least, we have a winner at every show. One person will win a one-on-one session where we're going to talk about confidence and self-promotion and give you some guidance and tips. I know lots of people like to get some one-on-one time with me. You have to be here to win. So hang out. Kelly will be managing that at the end. Last but not least, welcome Kelly, who should be, at least is on my screen, is right there, in the Spuckles. She is going to be running all sorts of good stuff in chat. So if I reference anything or I give you links to things or there's opportunities or you want to say, I want to volunteer, Kelly's the one that manages for me all of this sort of stuff as we get started. So speaking of getting started, we're going to make this interactive to begin with. I need you all to do something for me first. I need you all to go to slido.com or hold your phone up to the QR code. It'll take you there as well. And just type in 12345. We've made the passcode super hard today because I want to ask you some questions. And we're going to do this so that you can all see everybody's answers. It's way more fun this way. If you can't get there, Kelly should have dropped a link in the chat as well. Should be super easy. Okay. So I've got, you guys have already got going on the Slido. Before we start talking any of this, I want to talk about the 3 big questions I'm going to ask. When you are thinking about self-promotion, there are 3 questions I ask. 1, what do you want to promote? 2, who are you promoting to? And 3, why do they choose you? But before I do that, I want to hear why things are weird. So you tell me, now that I've given you a little bit of an introduction around this idea of self-promotion, why do you want to learn how to do it better? Is it to get a promotion? Is it because you need a better opportunity? Is it because you need to help people understand how to work better with you? We've got one person, at least a couple of people who need a job. I am curious to what the community is saying. Oh, you can pick more than one, by the way, if more than one applies to you. There's some super magic on there as well. Better opportunities. So we've got all over the place, but better opportunities, I think, is a universal one. Here's the thing to think about. I'm just going to plant this seed with you about this concept of better opportunities. Is getting clear on the what are people buying me for question. And I'm going to talk about this today because in the world of work, people are renting a subscription to your future time. They are buying your future time. That is the product that you are selling. And for them to give you what you define as better opportunities, they have to believe that product is the right solution to that opportunity. And so better opportunities don't necessarily come from your past. Better opportunities come from your future. I'm going to unpack that one some more, but I think that's a really interesting concept for you to think through. Okay, next question. We've got questions across the board. Is why is it hard for you? Why does it feel icky? Is it because it's inauthentic? Is it because it feels like you're cheating the program a little bit? Is it because you've seen other people do it and ugh, it looks gross? Is it because it feels a little bit selfish? And I can't even see my last one because my little thingamybobby is hiding it. What is it? Feels inauthentic. It's coming out on top and I feel like a braggart. Nobody likes it, right? Yeah. Here's my seed plant on this one. This is good to know that we've got a lot of people who don't like people who come across as braggadocious. Confidence issue is a big issue too. Good to know. So why am I asking all of those questions as well? Because in reality, you're here. You signed up because you were like, oh, I want to learn how to self-promote, because you understand you do need to do it. And my hope in this conversation is that we will come right up to the line of bragging without crossing over. Because anything less than that means you are talking about less than the most fabulous version of the product of you. So right up to the line without crossing over. And that's what we are actually going to talk about today. Okay, so I'm going to come back to all of the questions that I asked you guys at the beginning. And I said, well, hang on a second. I've got 3 questions I want to ask about the product of you. So let's go through them really quickly. My first question is, what do you want to promote? Like, what is the product of you? What is unique about you? What is it you want to put out there? And it's critically important because, like, if I think about somebody who has got an awesome product and they are out there selling it to people and people aren't buying it, then what is it you're promoting might be off. If lots of people are buying you because of one thing and you want something to do something different, you need to actually focus on what the product is. Like, you think about, if I was selling batteries, I would have one conversation. If I was selling scissors, I would have another one. What is the thing that you want to promote about you? And what I tend to see happen so often when it comes to human beings and their amazing, amazing talents is we promote all the things. And you don't actually, like, if I talk to you about all the things a battery could do, you would tune out after about the second and third one. So what is the unique value of this battery? Well, the unique value of this battery is it's rechargeable. So promote, what is the thing I want to promote on this battery is I want to promote that it is rechargeable and reusable and everything. It's the reness of this battery that's important. So what are the 1 or 2 things that make you uniquely awesome that you want people to recognize and remember? What is the 1 or 2 things? Because any more than that, and people start to tune out. You'll also notice in that conversation about what do you want to promote, I talked about something that was unique. What is something that is uniquely you? Because if the thing that you want to promote is your ability to get things done, is your really creative ideas, is your strategic thinking, well, you know what? Hands up around the room for just a second. How many people think they're really good at getting stuff done? Yeah, me too. How many people think they are a strategic thinker? Yeah, pretty much everybody. How many people think they come up with really creative solutions to problems? Yeah. For those of you who are not showing your hands, do not be boring here. And yes, I'm going to talk to you. If you're all like, I know some of you have heard this before, but some of you are like, but hang on a second, I don't know what my unique thing is. All of those, we're going to get there. Okay, second question. Well, actually, second comment, and I want to talk about this concept of the product, is what are you promoting? You're actually promoting you, the product. And your product is made up of 4 key things. These are the 4 things that people are hiring you for. 1, your skills. 2, your accomplishments. 3, your personality. Are you a lovely person? Do I want to play with you? And 4, your potential. Let's talk about what you already have in your toolkit. And if you have a job, what people are already doing about. If you have a job, people already know what your skills are because you are already known for something. If you don't have a job, it's on your resume. They know where you went to college. They know what jobs you've had. They're going to make assumptions about all of this. Your accomplishments better be on your resume and better be talked about in your performance reviews and your check-ins with your leadership team. These are conversations we are already having. So if you are trying to promote yourself, going back and bragging about your accomplishments and skills isn't actually going to help you. Because what people are trying to decide in the future is, will this person play well in the future? And do we believe that they have the capabilities and abilities to solve the problems in the future? And I want to point out is, can they imagine it is the key statement there. It is their perspective, not yours. So I'm going to come back to the nobody wants to come across as a braggart. Braggarts talk about their accomplishments and their skills. People who teach others about their personality and their potential are actually just being themselves. That's how not to come across as somebody who is bragging. It's a key thing. If you think about that, last time somebody bragged about themselves, they were like, look what I did, or look who I met, or look what, and it's all past based. If you start thinking about the future product, it shifts from self-promotion to perspective potential promotion. And that is the big shift in this conversation. Okay, so next question, also super important in this, is who is the customer that will be buying you? Who is the person who is going to be purchasing your future time? Which then should unpack a whole conversation about why do they care? What are they looking for? What are their measures of success? Who are they? And most importantly, how do they recognize potential? Because here's another thing I know a lot of you have heard me say, potential is infinitely easier to recognize when it looks and sounds like you. Potential is also really easy to recognize when somebody has recognized a pattern. And I'm going to give you an example. I was talking to an executive earlier this week who actually used to work with me back in the 90s, long time ago. I gave him one of his first jobs. It was an awesome conversation. And I was having a conversation with him about his hiring practices. And he hires a lot of salespeople, as an example. And he said, I never look for somebody who's been doing the same sales job over and over again. He goes, because all I'm doing is rotating bold tires. He goes, I look for somebody who has sold 2 different products, and I mean really different, like maybe a commercial product and an enterprise product, or toothbrushes to one person and radishes to another. He goes, I look for somebody who's been successful selling 2 different products, and if they can do that, they can sell mine too. Here's the other thing he looks for pattern recognition. Have you done any blue collar work? He goes, there's a grit and an understanding of hustle when you have worked in the blue collar space, or he said, or if you have been in the service industry. Is he looking at everything else on these people's resume? Absolutely. But you know, I know this guy really quite well, and I can see where his patterns of potential were created in his career because he's been through those same experiences. He's actually a super fan of hiring women because he's like, my God, moms are like the most super multitaskers on the planet. He goes, they can kind of make anything happen. He then said, I hire them because they get shit done. And I gave him a lesson on how he was never allowed to say that sentence again, because get shit done, people get given shit to do. What he is actually hiring for and what he should note on is he trusts their ability to solve problems in the future, resulting on something getting done. So if in this case, Jimmy was your customer, how you need to talk to him is going to be very different from how, you would talk to the CEO of Oracle, as an example. Different customers recognize potential in different ways. It's also really important because I think about this idea that the product that you are promoting is your future time. The other thing to not forget is that this is a double-sided marketplace, and you get to choose who you sell the product to. And so in this world of who is the customer and who do you want to sell the product of you to, also figuring out who that person is so that you can align who you are and help teach them about your future potential. You can then also find out whether you want to sell to them or not. It's a critical question in all of this, because I have seen lots and lots of people who are unhappy in their work or not getting the opportunities because they are not working for people who believe in their potential and can recognize their potential. Critical piece in making that work. Okay, next question on my thing, and I already talked about this a little bit, but the idea of why might somebody want to choose the product of you? And this is where, if you're looking for a job, I really recommend going on a deep dive with the job description and looking and analyzing it to figure out what problem is it they are trying to solve. If, as an example, you are going for a customer service job, you are trying to show that you are very customer centric, et cetera, all of those words are going to sound the same. Do you want to explain to them how you're detail oriented and customer focused and all of that sort of stuff? Yes, maybe. But when you think about how do they choose you versus choosing somebody else, when you think about the problem that they're trying to solve is, are you able to pivot conversations with future clients to help uncover their problems so we can figure out how to solve it? That's what a really great customer service person does. And so instead of talking about your skills, your capabilities, talk about how you would think about doing things in the future. The concept of empathy, the concept of thinking about problems, and actually teach them how you think as opposed to what you do. That becomes a much better way of explaining your potential and how do you talk about it. Do you hear the difference between talking about your features and your skills and your results versus talking about your potential and your future? Because that's the other piece of this. Here's the reality. You are already known for something, and you are teaching people with every single interaction who the potential you could be. Every single interaction. The checker at the grocery store, the person you stand next to now that we can at a baseball game, the person you have a coffee with in the break room when we start doing that again, how you show up on the Zoom meetings. As an example, and I'm going to put this out here, we are still somewhat in this virtual world. If people can't see you, they can't choose you. And so are you intentionally turning your camera on? And what is the story that you are telling here? Now, as you can see, I'm a little crazy about this particular issue because I'm all like, gotta have a clean background, gotta have the color, I often show up in sequins, all of those things, because they are all telling a story. I'll also say that your imagery tells a story. Here are two, as an example, images of me. Which one of these, this person, the standing person, or the laughing person, do you want to engage with? Wave if it's this guy. Okay, now wave if it's this guy. Yeah, do you see the difference? I just taught you, I mean, I know lots of you know, but I taught you a little bit about me just with a photograph. Just with a photograph. And who I would send this picture to and who I would send this picture to is going to change based on the product I want to sell them. How do I want them to engage with me in the future? Who my customer is and why they might buy me. Because different people are going to buy these two characters in a different way. And this is self-promotion. Quick question as I talk to you. Hands up to any of you that said this. I've got my thingies. I can't even get them up the right way. Here we go. How many of you said, God, that felt really icky when Joanna did that? Yeah, nobody. I was telling you a story and teaching you about myself, and we were talking about potential in the future. Same thing. I'm going to keep saying this because I see us all every single time we have a conversation talking about our past, talking about what we've done, talking about all of those sorts of things. And I want one more piece on this headshot. Same thing with headshots. I will openly admit that this photograph was taken as a joke in the photo shoot that I had. And when it came out, I was like, oh, I can't use that picture. I look ridiculous. I mean, yes, I'm laughing and I have my little 3D character in here, but this is not what I do. This is who I am. Here's the thing. The majority of you picked this person. It's not about me. Headshots are not about you. They're about your customer. How you talk about yourself when you are helping people understand how you can do things in the future. It is not about you. It's about what story you painting about your potential, and does somebody recognize and remember it? When you are commenting or on a LinkedIn post or tweeting, it's not actually about you. It's about what you are teaching other people. This is that whole bi-directional marketplace. And this is why I come back and go, be intentful about the product of you and what it is you want to teach people, because over time, people learn who you are and what you're all about and why you are uniquely awesome and all of the things, because that's what you want to teach them. Because this is actually what we're optimizing for. Could have fooled me that I would have a quote from Bridget Jones's diary in here. We all want to have somebody hire us for just who we are today. And the reality is, the good news about Mark Darcy is he saw Bridget Jones's potential. I think she took a little longer to see his. But when somebody can recognize and remember and believes in the potential of the future you, they will purchase your future time for exactly who you are. And if you are not teaching people about it and you are not sharing it, then people will tell their own stories if you're not telling it for yourself. Well, absolutely tell your own stories. And so I want you to start being more intentful about how you do that. Okay, so how on earth do you start doing that? Let me pop over to my little cheat tips, the easy stuff. First of all, my first thing on how do you start doing that is start small and practice. There's not a product marketer on the planet who would do a broad release of their product to absolutely every single person and or release a product to their most high maintenance customer on the planet immediately. They would actually do some market research up front. And so the battery of you'd actually go out and do some customer testing. Same way they do for movies, the same way they do for products, the same way most politicians and executives will practice their speech in front of people and get not feedback on is this good or bad, but what they get is feelings. How do you feel about this product? Do you recognize the potential in this product? How would you describe this product to somebody else? Those same concepts can happen with you too. So here are the 4 things I want you to actually start doing immediately, whether you decide to do the experiment or not, because this will start to help you learn how to teach people about the potential and paint the picture of the future you. 1, speak up. I know it is super hard, but if you are not speaking, you are making them guess. And if you're making them guess, then you cannot be mad that they are not choosing you, because you are making them guess who you are and what you're all about. So your fault if you are not doing this. Here's a tip I actually got from another executive the other day she said, I tell people all the time to speak up. And I said, well, that's really hard for people. Sometimes speaking up seems really inappropriate or really difficult. And she said, well, actually, I tell people speak early. And she goes, it doesn't actually matter what you say. You don't have to come in with some genius or brilliant insight. Just say something out loud so that you are seen. It's a little bit like turning your camera on so you are seen. Speak early. Just say, like, that's a really great idea. Or I could really get behind that. Or I'm really excited about that. Something really simple so that you are recognized in the room. Second of all, take a teaching approach. So instead of saying a bunch of, I need X, I need Y, which sounds very braggadocious. What is it people need to learn? Use a lot of, if you want this, then this will happen. And by the way, I'm really good at making that happen. What is it they need to hear is the other thing. And actually the question, what did they hear, is one of my favorite questions when it comes to self-promotion, because it is the self-promotion act that is not actually self-promotion. Let me explain for just a second. If I asked all of you at the end of this presentation, what did you hear? You would have to go back in your brain and take the picture that I painted for you and actually translate it back to me in the way that works for you in your language. 2 things have just happened here. 1, I actually got you guys to do the talking about me instead of me doing the talking about me. Second of all, I just gave you a practice session on how to talk about why I'm awesome. That sure sounds like self-promotion to me, but almost in a different way. So whenever you are presenting, sharing an idea, talking about opportunities, asking the question, what did you hear, reinforces who you are and what you're all about with the people that you are trying to influence, which is why when you are thinking about self-promotion, really having clarity around the product so that you are talking about the product that is going to help manifest the future you that you want is critically important. Because if you are reinforcing, I'm really good at getting things done, I'm a loyal employee, you can trust me, unless those are the things that are going to get you that next promotion that they think that you need, they are not going to get there. And I'm going to give you an example. I was talking with a brilliant young man yesterday who is brilliant. And one of his core values is trust. But he is literally the most soft-spoken, gentle, quiet person who has ever crossed my desk. Normally you have to be a little braver, and I was purchased for him in this kind of scenario because people didn't know he existed. And in the conversation about what do you hear, one of his core values is building trust. And I said, you can actually change this question to, did this help you trust me more to be able to color outside the lines? Did this help you trust me more to whatever? Like we actually ended up taking that question and changing it for him so that it re-anchored on this trust for him. Because the third thing I talk about is be yourself. Baloo the bear, you can't be anybody else. Because if you are not yourself, you're actually selling a product that doesn't exist, or selling a product that features don't actually line up with who you are and what you're all about. And we all know that when we buy a product that doesn't meet our expectations, we are dissatisfied with the product. So be absolutely rigid with yourself about being yourself and who you are and what you're all about. Which brings me to the last thing, which is beta test. If any of these questions have made you say, oh, but I don't know what the value of me is. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to teach. I don't know because I'm not sure. Then go out and ask people who are already purchasing the product of you. What is it they would like to learn about you? How are they ambitious for you? How do they see the potential for you? This is not about feedback on the current product. It's about imagining the future product. How would you imagine me having more impact in the future? Fantastic question. And you know what? All of those answers are going to help you figure out not only how are people looking at the product of you today, but also give you some ideas of what the product of the future you could be. Really, really powerful questions. And FYI, we talked about this whole idea of confidence. I've done that exercise with lots and lots of people. There is nothing more confidence building than a bunch of people telling you why you're awesome in a really honest and authentic way. Nothing. Here's the other thing about being yourself and believing in yourself. Confidence happens when you believe in something. And if it's not bulletproof in you, you're not going to believe in it. And that's where, when you think about self-promotion and the concept of confidence and bragging and all this sort of thing, and this is why I'm like, do not focus on your past, focus on your future. If you're trying to fake it, it's going to come across, because we can all smell inauthenticity a mile off. So experiment or otherwise, I challenge you over the next week to pick one thing from each of these boxes. Just do it one time and see what happens. So go into one meeting and say something within the first 90 seconds. And I'm not talking about a meeting where you're the boss. I'm talking about a meeting where you're all like, oh, should I say something? I don't know what to say. Say something. Find one person who, if you taught them how you thought, might teach you something about what they heard. And again, this is not going to your mom and teaching her, or going to your sister or your spouse or your bestie. Go to somebody who scares you a tiny bit. Always better. When you're in a room and somebody asks you to, or you feel like you are not being yourself, figure out how to announce who you are. So the gentleman yesterday who was talking about trust, like, figure out what that thing is that is uniquely you and share it once next week. Last but not least, on the beta test, take either one of those questions. How are you ambitious for me? And what potential do you see in me? And ask one person. One person.
Hey, Joanna?
Yes.
What do you mean when you say how they are ambitious for you?
Well, just ask the question. Just trust me on this one. I'm just going to say ask the question, because how people answering it, how someone's ambitious for you is how they, like, what do they want more from you, right? Where do they see you having impact in the future? And here's the thing, you will get one of two really awesome answers. You'll either get, this is how I see your value today, or this is where I see you could actually be more. We all used to have that person. Well, it was our parents for a really long time. They are and have always been ambitious for us. You've also all got a BFF in your world who's ambitious for you. It's time to start talking about that in the workplace. And if you walked around and said, I am ambitious for X, well, then you sound like one of those icky self-promoting people. Asking somebody, how are you ambitious for me? Not icky self-promoting person, curious. It's a big shift, and it talks about the future. Very key question. Okay, I gotta get focused because I went down a whole rabbit hole of stuff and I don't know. Okay. Last but not least on this whole self-promotion thing, I also shared with you my photographs from earlier. Here's the other thing. It doesn't all have to be talk. We have eyes, we have ears. Could you have a personal brand with your nose and your taste? Maybe if you're a chef. I'm not sure I would do this in the professional space, but you absolutely have the ability to tell a story about the future you and your potential on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube, on a blog, in your emails, even when you are connecting with somebody in the first engagement. It is very simple. So here is my last step 5 of the challenge. Pick one of these methodologies and talk about how you think that aligns with the product of you and the audience that you are trying to talk to. So if you are trying to, as an example, so if you want Jimmy, who was the guy I was talking about earlier, to hire you, go find him on LinkedIn, find where he has posted something and comment. Very simple way to get in the consideration set and teach people how you think. If somebody who you're a super fan of or an executive in your organization, like imagine for a second you looked up your CEO's Twitter handle and retweeted something he tweeted with a comment that was supportive. What a great way to get on their radar. Connect, follow up, all the things. And I'm actually going to talk to you about one of my most delightful experiences with somebody taking me very seriously with this exercise is I was sharing this whole idea of how are you ambitious for you and where do you see my potential? And I asked the room of people to go out and in essence do market research on themselves. And this absolutely delightful woman who worked for SurveyMonkey of all people took this very seriously. And she said, well, hang on a second, I've got survey tools at my disposal. I'm going to use them. And so she put a survey together with those exact questions in there. She was at the time a very soft-spoken young lady, and she sent out the survey to over 100 people in her organization. I had only asked her to do 5. She did 100 because she was a bit of an overachiever, including the CEO of her company, which she had never met. Number 1, here was her feedback about what happened. She goes, the day the results all started coming in was literally the best day of her life. She said, because I realized what contribution I was making in the organization and where I was really adding value. And it was really amazing to hear. The second thing that happened is she got on the radar of the people who were making the decisions in the room that she's not in. She is now one of the senior executives at SurveyMonkey. And ironically, because she wrote about it and shared it on LinkedIn, because she is an overachiever, I commented on it and I'm actually friends with the CEO of SurveyMonkey and I'm like, oh my God, Xander Morgan Xander, and all of the connection magic happened. Literally doing it through a survey and asking the question has been a key motivator for Morgan getting promoted in her organization. And she is doing her very best work, all just based on this one thing. So when I talk about asking those 4 questions and then doing one thing, the magic that happens afterwards is critical and key. Okay, so I talked about all of those sorts of things. Why don't we do a little show versus tell? So Kelly, who are we going to have up first?
Lara.
Okay, so
Hi.
Lara, it is lovely to meet you. Thank you for pre-registering for a personal thing. You want to, I know I read about your situation, but you want to give everybody on the show a little bit about who you are, what's going on, and why you need to teach people about the future you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love your earrings. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
And I've been told, especially in the Zoom world, it's very important to maximize here, not so much necklaces. So yes. Okay, who am I? I'm Italian, very proud of Italian, born and raised. I've been in the sports industry for my entire career, international base. lived in Asia, lived in Europe, lived in the US, managed the South American operation. So speak multiple languages, been always in the partnerships, sponsorships, and legal affairs. I took some time off to work on my biggest project to date, which is my daughter. And then now, thankfully, schools are open. So she's back into school. So I am absolutely ready to go back and be challenged, be stretched, be excited, and just give back to what I love. So one thing that I'm fully aware is that me personally, but in general, women, unfortunately, we are full of limiting beliefs that are just beliefs. So I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm a foreigner, I'm an accent, I'm a mom, all those things that are just thoughts, but then they become a seed, a plant, a tree, and then we start believing them. So although I'm fully aware of that, I still believe in them. That's how sad it is. Anyway, so I need a little, I just need to be reminded how great I am and how awesome I can be in the workforce. And I guess it really narrowed down to, why would people listen to me? Why would people want to work with me after taking 3-4 years of sort of like, sabbatical?
All right.
And so that's pretty much, it boils down to that.
So first and foremost, I don't think you need to even keep talking about the fact, I mean, I know it's important to you, but you want somebody to purchase the future you.
Correct.
Right? So I would not waste any more mental time for anybody else, like you focus it on all day, but anybody else doesn't actually need to hear about what you've been doing.
Got it.
Doesn't matter. Not until later, when they want to find out who you are and what you're all about, absolutely have that conversation. But in that initial, how do you help people understand? Because you're specifically looking for a job. How do you understand? Like when you think about the product you are selling is a partnerships and business development person in the sports industry. Is that fair?
Correct.
Right? So then the customers who need to buy you are the people who are in sports and sports adjacent industries.
Right.
Who want somebody who understands how to do business development and partnerships, probably on a global level.
Correct.
That's going to go on your customer set.
Mm-hmm.
And do they give a crap about the fact that you made a human being?
No.
Maybe, but probably not one of the key pieces. So stop talking about it. Sorry, ladies. I know that's brutal, but
No,
I just don't you're not closing for the fact that you're an awesome mom and you're a human maker. You are closing for a job,
mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the first thing. So now I sit here and say, okay, so I asked you like, who are your customers and all of that sort of stuff. How connected and how deep are your relationships in the space of business development and sports? Do you know everybody still, or have you just been off their radar for a while?
I think it's 50%. So I still know some people. What I've been working on the last, I would say 2-3 months, which is great results, is connections, just working on connections. And I literally did what you mentioned before. I connect with people on LinkedIn and follow what they do. And just yesterday, I watched someone's give a speech on a panel on YouTube. I thought it was brilliant. So I connected with them. I references, that was amazing. I loved in his work. I think it was amazing. Boom, we're connected. And so definitely I'm filling the gap of that 50% of people that I don't.
You're working on it. I think the other, and Kelly, if we can dig it up, we had a show last week called How to Get Your Network to Help You Find a Job.
Oh.
Specifically the people who already know you and love you,
Mm-hmm.
how to teach them how to introduce you for opportunities, because you're commenting on YouTube and all of that sort of stuff is getting you in the consideration set. People don't know that you are available for purchase. Right? And I took a quick look at your LinkedIn profile. I don't know that you are available for purchase yet.
Right.
And that's the shift in the perspective. I would also say, go take a look at the show where we talked about how to explain your brilliant brain with a graphic, because I just created one for you. I just want everybody to look at this. I drew it on a crappy piece of paper. It says language, business development, and sports. How many of you now, based on the Venn diagram, have a clearer idea about what Lara does for a living? Do you see how the hands all just went up? Super simple. This should be on your LinkedIn profile, but looking slightly less ugly than a scribble on a piece of paper. This is the key piece of this. And you've got to start telling people you're actually available for dates, so to speak, right? Because you want to close for meetings. Because my guess is once you get in a meeting, it's easy to explain your value. And it's easy for people to understand what it is you bring to the table. So as you're thinking about, it sounds like you've started the whole, how do I get in the consideration set? Now I want you to shift through the sales funnel of promoting you and promoting the future you, and actually start saying, okay, how do I actually close for meetings? And your network is probably the most powerful thing to help do that. And making it super simple, because the kind of problems you're probably good at solving are ones that require linguistics, require an understanding of the sports business and how to navigate a complex deal. It's that simple. Yeah. Helpful?
Very, very. Thank you.
Awesome. All right.
I love that Joanna mentioned that we should talk about personality and potential instead of skills and accomplishments. Can you give an example of how to talk about the personality and potential?
Well, I feel like all I did was talk about potential today, so I'm not going to go down there today. But on the personality thing, it's being intentful about who you are and what you're all about. So you guys, and Tirtha, I'm going to give an example. Like you guys have, if you've been to this show more than once, which many of you have, you are well aware of what the personality of Joanna is, and I am kind of unapologetic about it, right? You know that I'm going to be a little rough on people, as I just was with Kathleen. But all in the space of, I want absolutely all the things for Kathleen. You know that I'm going to show up in groovy outfits. You know that I'm a little Joanna Jazz Hands. I absolutely embody the Bette Midler meets Tony Robbins meets Gene Roddenberry character that I am. And I teach that person, I teach people who that is, and I am unapologetic about who it is, but not in a jerky way. I'm just like, look, this is who I am and what I'm all about. And you can either say, awesome, I want more of that. Or you can go, my God, she's a complete lunatic. No, thank you. That is totally fine. Not everybody is going to buy you. Doing work is not necessarily about being liked. It's actually about somebody liking you just for who you are and what you're all about. The same way that Ruth Bader Ginsburg did that in her personality as how she helped people understand how to buy the future of her. The same way Elon Musk does in a very, very different way. If you look at anybody who you admire professionally, how they are consistent about who they are and how they show up, and they are really thoughtful about it. And if you listen to stories of Barack Obama as an example, when he first started as a politician, he was not the charismatic, charming, emotionally driving character that he is today. He actually had to not shift who he was, but how people could recognize his intention and what he was doing. So I think you naturally choose your personality. What I don't want you to do is start apologizing. So I'm going to use the guy I was talking about last night, just because I think this might relate to you guys a lot. He was talking a lot about how he's been given feedback that he's too quiet. And I said, well, but is this just part of who you are and what you're all about? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, then we just need to figure out how to help people understand that your quietness is actually an asset rather than a weakness. Because the people who are buying you are not quiet people and can't recognize the potential of quiet. And so you're going to need to teach them. And it's having that whole conversation. This is why, folks, this isn't we can fix all your problems in 10 minutes or less conversation. And it's why this becomes really deep and rich work, because you're trying to figure out who you want to be when you grow up and what you want to be known for. And so this is a constant journey, which brings me back to what's coming up next. We are starting a whole new set of shows starting on June 11th. Kelly and I are going to get some time off to focus and retool and get all some stuff together and all of that. So we're going to be talking about how to talk about the potential you on that very first show. It's my favorite one. If you are interested, and Kelly's going to be dropping a link in the chat right now and sending in the follow-up email, we are running an experiment this week where I'm going to, you will get to sign up for a texting challenge. Remember those questions I had earlier in the deck? We are going to have different ones coming out every single day. We're going to challenge you every single day to do a thing, and we're going to want to hear back from you. That entire experiment is a whopping $10 to participate. It'll take 5 minutes or less. If you need an accountability buddy, we are here to do that for you. You can sign up through there. We will also be choosing one winner from that group to get some extra coaching with me. So extra bonus if you've got there. But remember, if you do anything this week, go out and ask, what are your ambitions for me? Before we go, Kelly, do we have
good.
Week?
I'm glad we didn't forget with all this juicy stuff happening today. So today's winner is Devin Hanley Cook.
Woohoo! Awesome, Devin. I look forward to talking to you soon. Kelly is going to be sending you information on how to get started there. Thank you all for coming. I hope to see you all again on June 11th. If you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter. We talk about a lot of this stuff and how to navigate the future of work there. Thank you all for coming and staying late. Lara and Kathleen, best of luck on your futures. And I'll just leave you with this. I want everybody to have the Mark. I want you all to have your own Mark Darcy moment for the professional. I want all of your customers to buy you for exactly who you are and what you're all about, because that's when we all start to kill it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Ultimately, we're here to help you figure out how to teach other people who the future you is so that you can be you in the future. Because the clearer you are about who you are, what you want, and teach other people why that's awesome, the more likely you get to be you. I know, it's a bit of a circle. I'm Joanna, your potentialist and fairy godmother, and I wish you the very best. Thanks for coming.